By June 2024, the front in the DPR was static. There had been bloody fighting in Krasnohorivka and west of Avdiivka. After the failures of the first half of the year, the Ukrainian armed forces took out their anger by shelling Donetsk and Horlivka. Now, the enemy has been significantly pushed away from Donetsk. Several major cities have been liberated, and in Dzerjinsk, the battle for the city is coming to its logical conclusion. However, how did the fighting for Dzerjinsk, which can be called a battle for the safety of Horlivka, begin? In June, Russian attack aircraft made a sudden dash towards Druzhba and then Shum. A 10-year line of defense was broken through. Already by early July, armored groups had made their way to the outskirts of Pivnishna and occupied part of Leninsky. Dzerjinsk was daily shelled with assault aviation. At the same time, the offensive began in the south, where Russian troops also broke through the old fortification and fought for New York and took Yurivka. By early August, the Russian armed forces had already reached the outskirts of Dzerjinsk, and a small cauldron began to form in the south. The fighting was very heavy, and by the end of the month, the advanced groups of attacking aircraft had already entered the administrative boundaries of the city. Battles were fought for every house. Shells were spent by wagons. Already by September, the AFU managed to stabilize the situation for a while, although they were losing positions on a daily basis. The entire month of October saw extremely heavy fighting in Dzerjinsk. By that time, the city was full of positions of small groups of the Russian armed forces and the AFU. Drone strikes were exchanged. But by November, it became clear that the Russian armed forces could not hold on to Leonidivka. The enemy counterattacked with the involvement of special forces and held Sherbinivka at that time. But in Dzerjinsk, the rate of advance of the Russian armed forces increased significantly. Beginning in December, evidence of assault groups advancing further west appeared on an almost daily basis. At least half of the city was already occupied by December 15th, and fighting broke out again on the outskirts of Sherbinivka. Unlike the previous time, this time the Russian armed forces managed to gain a foothold, albeit in a narrow part of the village. By December 31st, about two-thirds of Dzerjinsk was already under the control of Russian troops, and reserves were being brought into the city to build up the pace of the assault. On the western flank, there were advances in Sherbinivka, and by the current moment, there was practically no enemy-controlled residential area left in the city, although the fighting was still going on. For the final liberation of the city, Russian troops need to occupy the remaining uplands, including the Toretska mine. After that, it will be pointless for the AFU to cling to the settlement. At the same time, the capture of the city will not only reduce the intensity of shelling of Horlivka, but will also open the way to the south of Kostiantynivka, significantly complicating the enemy's position in the Artemivsk direction.